Hi, so I've just finished reading Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky on a week's holiday. I'm going to be honest, as someone who hadn't read any fiction for about 20 years before that, that is not a sentence I ever expected to say out loud because it's 650 pages, there's no paragraphs, just walls of text, and at various points he spends multiple pages describing a main character's dreams and you're not sure, does this have any relevance or not? Or has Mr. Dostoevsky just been sipping vodka and writing whatever popped into his head at the time? But why is a health and fitness coach for over 40s telling you about Russian literature? Well, managing to make it through the book, kicking and screaming at times, has huge parallels with how we can manage to get ourselves to work out more consistently as we get older, both in terms of allowing our ego to drive us and also forcing ourselves to embrace the grind a little bit. So bear with me here, this will all eventually make sense and will help you work out more consistently and get your arse in shape. Now, by page 50 of 650, I genuinely wanted to quit this book. My phone was within arm's reach, full of funny videos and sports gossip, which would be a whole lot more exciting than wading through walls of dense text. Like I said, no paragraphs, wondering why nobody thought to edit this book, or why has this guy just taken 2 pages to describe a fella's shoes? I kept thinking, do I need to know this? Can I skip this bit? Should I just read a summary on ChatGPT and pretend that I finished this book? But I kept going. I was relaxing by the pool on holiday. I had nowhere else to be. I just stuck with it, sometimes just for 20 or 30 pages at a time, because that's all I could manage to begin with. But just like in the gym, as time went on, I built up slowly to reading more and more at a time, as I slowly learned how to be okay with things not being exciting all the time. Now, this book is split into 6 parts. When I finished part 3, something definitely shifted in my head because I was halfway and I thought, right, I can finish this, you know. And as I got into the last third of the book, it stopped feeling like a hard slog and the book became genuinely brilliant too. It wasn't a struggle anymore and it was properly compelling, but I never would have got there if I'd listened to that wee voice in my head at around the page 50 mark. Now, when I'm working out in the gym, I have given the finger to a barbell more times than I can count. You know, like when you struggle to grind out one last rep, I always get a very specific satisfaction in looking at the weight afterwards and thinking, F you, I won, you lost, even though, yes, I know it's an inanimate object that has no feelings or no idea that I even exist. But that's exactly what I did when I finished Crime and Punishment. I put the book down on the table beside me, same energy, same fingers. I won, you lost, Dostoevsky. But like I said, the parallels here with getting in shape are huge, but maybe not so obvious. So let me explain. If you're in your 40s or 50s and you want to lose, say, 30 pounds to get stronger, that goal is like our 650-page book with no paragraph breaks. It feels dense, overwhelming to begin with. You genuinely doubt you're going to be able to get through it, especially at the start when nothing seems to be happening and the voice in your head is telling you this is not working, this is a wrong plan, and there will absolutely be stretches that feel pointless and boring, weeks where the scales don't move, sessions where you just go through the motions and you wonder what the hell you're doing there. That is like our 6 pages about a dream sequence in Crime and Punishment. It's part of the book. You don't know if it's necessary, but you can't just skip it. But as you chip away at it week after week, something will start to shift. Maybe your jeans will start to fit differently, or you lift something that you couldn't possibly have lifted a couple of months ago. That is like when you get to the halfway point of the book. Suddenly, the rest of it feels possible and doable. And like the last third of the book was for me, you'll eventually start loving some workouts. You'll feel fitter. You'll get compliments on your arms from people you don't even know. You realize the whole thing has been worth it, but you would never have reached that point if you'd bailed out earlier, like I almost did at page 50. But the last point I want to make is about workout motivation, and most fitness content I find doesn't really tell you this. You probably won't stick to any exercise plan primarily because you care about your long-term cardiovascular health and bone density. Yes, those are great, sensible, grown-up reasons to stick with the workout plan, but that's not how our heads work. So Steve Peters wrote a well-known book called The Chimp Paradox, which is worth reading actually, if you're interested in that type of thing. But the basic idea is that we have an emotional brain, the chimp, that operates faster and more powerfully than our rational human brain. And it's driven by things like ego, status, how we look to other people and how we feel about ourselves. And instead of trying to suppress that chimp and pretend that you're only motivated by sensible grown-up reasons to do anything, you're better off trying to work with it. You see, I finished Crime and Punishment partly for egotistical reasons. I wanted to be someone who has read Dostoevsky. I wanted to be able to mention it in conversation. And yes, that does sound a little bit pathetic for a 49-year-old, but I suppose I also wanted to prove to myself I could do something that felt genuinely hard. Now, none of that is particularly noble, but that was what got me through 650 pages, if I'm honest, because this book was a tough slog at times. And it's the same with working out. If your real motivation is wanting to look better on the beach, wanting people to notice that you've lost weight, wanting to feel attractive again, wanting to prove to yourself that you can stick with it, those are completely valid and very, very powerful reasons to keep going. But there's also something that happens when you finish something that you genuinely doubted you could do. I don't just mean the result, the weight lost or the book that you've read. I mean what it does to, I suppose, your sense of self, what you feel capable of now. I now feel genuinely more confident about reading difficult books I would have run away from before. I know I don't need every book to be an exciting page turner to keep me going. I've proved to myself now that I can be confused and bored and find something difficult and still come out the other side having finished it. And the same thing happens with fitness. When you stick to something for long enough, you stop being just someone who keeps dabbling at working out and trying new workout programs, and you become someone who works out. It's part of your identity. You stop needing every single workout to be super exciting with new exercises or dramatic results after a couple of days. Instead, you just start to embrace that grind because you've done it before and you know what's on the other side of it. Now, not to turn this into a book review, but Crime and Punishment is a brilliant book eventually. I would recommend it. It's also very boring in parts. It's confusing in parts. There's parts you think, mate, what were you smoking when you wrote this? This makes no sense, but you should still read it anyway. And your fitness journey is the same, like I said. Just keep chipping away at it. Use whatever motivation actually works for you rather than the sensible motivation that you think you're supposed to have with all of this. And remember, when you finally hit the goal that you set for yourself, back when it felt impossible, whether it is a barbell or a book, put it down, give it the finger, you have won, well done. I hope that helps though. Remember, if you want some help figuring out how to structure your weeks so that the chipping away actually happens consistently, have a look at my Bulletproof Weeks system in the description. But let's chat soon. Take care.